Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast presented by Zwift for the ultimate Vuelta España 2022 preview. We're going to sunny Spain. I've got the sunnies on, and I did put the bucket hat on. I tried for the OG listeners, but I actually couldn't hear Benji through the bucket hat, through the headphones. So,
bucket hats are overrated.
Maybe it would have been a fun pod if we just basically did two monologues side by side. Maybe it is like that sometimes because I like to talk a lot. But it's going to be relaxed. I feel like the teams themselves aren't prepared. Like any DSs or riders listening to this, hands up if you haven't gone through the whole road book yet on the Tuesday before it starts. With the Tour de France fan Benji avec Zwift extending the sort of tour month to the whole of July, that finished on 31 July. We're now doing our Vuelta preview 2 weeks after the Tour de France, and I think the Tour was a week earlier last year. So it's come up fast, and it's really close before the World Championships. 10-second answer only. Should the Vuelta and Giro swap spots on the parcours, on the calendar?
No. How dare you? Like, there's ruining cycling tradition, and there's like ruining cycling tradition. I think back in the day, the Vuelta was okay.
I think they should swap. Okay, we have Benji's. That's an off-season. Someone mark that down for an off-season debate. I reckon we can get 20 minutes out of that. Anyway, we're going to do it as we normally do. We'll go through the overall route and the difficulty of it, who are the favourites in the markets for GC, a detailed team discussion of Jumbo, Ineos, Quickstep, UAE and Bora as the 5 big, strong teams. Sorry if we've missed anybody. Sprinters, not very many opportunities for the pure sprinters, and then our stage-by-stage picks, KOM, points, Young Jersey, and then GC roundup discussion. That's how we will do it. But before we get into that, mention our show partner, Zwift. Zwift Academy is back for 2022. Registration is open now. Whether you're aiming for a pro contract like Jay Vine or Neve Bradbury, or are just looking to kickstart your fitness with some structured sessions, Zwift Academy will help you get fitter and have more fun on the bike. There are 6 workouts to complete, either solo or in group workouts with baseline rides to compare your progress before and after Zwift Academy. And I would just like to say, if you're in where most of the people or the biggest demographics of this podcast, if you're in sort of North America or Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, UK, particularly, North America or Oceania, Zwift Academy, as shown by Vine, Moolman, Bradbury, it's a legitimate way and one of probably the best paths to getting noticed and getting a pro contract. Like, seriously, you can get good results in Asia and Conti races, which unfairly might go ignored by European teams. And it's really, really hard to get a contract or make that move over to Europe. Zwift Academy has shown like you can actually make that move over. So it's worth going for if you think you're at that level. I just like to say that. I think it's really good because, I'm always banging the drum about how every Australian 20-year-old could win the Tour de France. They're just not given a chance. But I actually think... Pardon?
Will you win the Tour de France at some point?
I'm a bit old and 20, despite what people think. I think that time is gone. But yeah, maybe I should do Zwift Academy. I could probably pay for my own spot on a Pro Conti Italian team, though. Anyway, that's Zwift Academy. In all seriousness, check it out. Registrations are open. All right, the Vuelta. It starts in the Netherlands, which is good for the back-to-back 3-time champion Jumbo Visma, the Netherlands squad, and GC Contenders, who are on their team. Starts in the Netherlands, flat as you'd expect. Starts with the TTT. Remember the last TTT? There was the crash of Jumbo and UAE when there was the water on the road. Then there's 2 sprint stages. Then they go down, rest day, transition day, on the next Monday, and they go down to the Basque Country, start in Irun, then they work their way across the north of Spain, going into the Asturias, punchy climbs, then after stage 9, travel day or first proper rest day, they go down south, just south of Valencia, Alicante, and then they work their way around the bottom of Spain. They completely skip Catalonia, Navarra region, and the middle of Spain pretty much. They just work their way around the bottom and then up to Madrid. So it's an interesting route. They will come to Catalonia next year. This is what people, I remember seeing some articles, Benji. This is not a traditional Vuelta route in that there's not much Rampas in Humanas at all. There's one Rampas stage. It's actually a lot of 12K, 8K, 6 to 7% climbs, which I think could be good for team tactics.
Okay, interesting. I think when it comes to the parkour, the first thing that comes to mind to me is the team time trial. I want to talk about that aspect before I get to the climbing part of this Grand Tour. And I like the team time trial being part of this Grand Tour because if we look at the Startlist, which we'll go into in a bit, there's no team where I say, okay, they're going to take a minute and a half on other people. In the team time trial, for example, there's multiple teams that have strong riders, but also have weaker links in team time trials. And combining that will mean that those teams won't necessarily get a huge advantage over the others. So that's the first aspect there. When it comes to the second and third stage, we go into some flatter terrain, and then we start the actual Spain territory. And knowing the Spain territory, you know that there's not too many sprinting opportunities anymore. And after the sprinting opportunities of the Netherlands, the second and third stage, there's basically, I'd say, one or two sprinting opportunities afterwards. So who knows? We might see sprinters go away after day 3, for example. Hilly parkours all over throughout a few stages. And what I notice when it comes to those climbing stages is that I feel like there's not too many stages that have multi-mountains in them. Like in the Tour de France, we've got stages with first the Galibier, then the Croix de Fer, and then at the end we've got the Granon, for example, Alpe d'Huez, whatever. Like 3 major HC climbs per stage. And when we look at this parkour, I feel like there's smaller climbs throughout the parkour, 6 kilometers at 6% and so forth. The medium mountain terrain that we spoke about last year that could be pretty tactical, but the aspect of those stages that the final climb is the biggest one of them all. So I think that counters the aspect of the medium mountain chaos we had last year. So if you've got a stage with medium mountains on it, it allows people to attack early because there's not too many valleys, and if the valleys are there, they can play tactical and so forth. But if the final climb is the hardest one, then teams might likely wait until the final climb to actually get stuff done that stage. So I don't know, there's a mixed bag in that. I still think that there's a lot of stages in this Vuelta that are semi-hockey stick parkours, as in there's some hills or mountains throughout the parkour, but the last climb is the biggest one. And does that have an aspect on which climbers can do well on a parkour like this?
Yeah, so a good example of that is stage 12 to Peñas Blancas. There's no categorized climb before a 20 kilometer, 6.4% climb. And it's just perfect for Evenepoel and Roglic. Nairo Quintana's coming to this race. We saw he retired yesterday, Tom Dumoulin. We saw an Europa, which is averages 6.4, sort of 7%. In the Giro, he dropped Quintana because if you have the watts on 6.4%, I don't know if there's probably steep sections in it. It's better to be Remco with his CDA on the climbs or Roglic at 65
Arensman?
or Arensman. Well, in theory, if you
Yeah.
have the watts, in theory. Or even like Plapp is a good example. Sivakov. This should really suit them versus a Carapaz, a Quintana, although it is longer. So and especially that's not to altitude, that's from sea level. That should be really, really high watts. That's like a pure watts per kilo 40-minute test, Peñas Blancas. So Evenepoel, it should really, really suit him. What doesn't suit him, and is where we see Kuss and Quintana and those sort of riders, there is one really, really hard climb, mountaintop finish, but as Benji said, it only has the warm up. It's quite hard, I think. The Alto de Perch, I think that's actually quite hard. 9.1k, 7.5%, but that's got a descent in it. Fake news. Vuelta's always filled with fake news climbs. Sierra Nevada, 20k's, 8% to 2,500 meters. That's really, really hard. So yeah, we could expect big GC gaps on Sierra Nevada. That's really the climb where maybe teams will try and put Evenepoel under pressure. But going through the teams, we have to start with the defending champ. He is starting Primoz Roglic after abandoning the Tour de France after the crash on stage 5. What's his condition? No one really knows. I presume Wout van Aert came to the Tour de France with a quote-unquote knee injury. He seemed to be pretty fine, although Roglic, I don't know if he's, his condition, but I'm not sure he's been able to do like an altitude camp with the short time after the Tour. They come with Roglic, Affini, Omen, Kuss, Geesink, Turnison, who's off into Marseille, Harper, and Rowan Dennis is doing the race as well. He didn't do the Tour de France. So a pretty balanced team, Benji. 3 Dutch riders for the depart in the Netherlands. Good rouleurs. A little bit light on climbing. It could end up. It's really just Kuss and Roglic unless Omen gets back to career best levels.
Or unless we see Dennis that we saw at the start of the year, which was a significant climber in the likes of Paris-Nice, if my mind serves me right. So there's some aspect there, but I agree that it's light on climbing and they need a step up from some Allman on a decent level domestique-wise to be playing that role. Chris Harper, he played a role as the brake ruler guy quite a few times, but I swear he's a decent enough climber to at least be a rider and a train for them, certainly. So Geesink very similarly in that sense. They're like the early riders on the climbs to pace for a Jumbo, in my opinion. When we look at this squad in general, I'd say that a Mike Turnison is relatively free to go for the stages that are sprints like an Ethan Hayter stage, for example, stuff like that. Affini, for me, that's like team time trial rider plus break rider in this race. That's how I see it. Perhaps for the individual time trial, his own chances, yes. When it comes to Roglic, I don't know what to expect at all. Like you mentioned, he had that injury from the Tour de France. It was very vague, the communication around it, as in we never really knew the in-depth aspects of the consequences of that injury, and therefore it's impossible to know whether he's already at a level to compete at this Vuelta for the red jersey again. So it's hard to know that until we see it on the road. So until we actually see Roglic on the road, on even in the team time trial, I might not make a decision yet, but afterwards on the hilly parcours and so forth, what his state is there. Until then, it's nearly impossible to guess what his form is. And that's similar to 2021 Giro, the Evenepoel Giro, where he ended up showing up. Nobody knew what to expect. In week 1, it all looked great, and then towards the end, it kind of fell apart. Obviously, Roglic is a rider that has been proven when it comes to 3 weeks in this Vuelta throughout, so I'm curious to see what happens with Roglic. Is he going to be in form? Is he not going to be in form? I think he can get a record of the amount of won Vueltas in a row, but I'm not certain about that. I think Rominger has the same record at the moment, but hey, who cares about records? I don't know. I don't really, but I just wanted to mention it. And when it comes to the rest of the squad, Sepkus, GC Cuz, what's happening, man?
I think Kuss will try and stay close in GC, just because of, I think he has to actually, because when you look at the other teams, which we'll get to, apart from Movistar and Bike Exchange, Ineos, UAE, and Bora, 3 of the 5 strongest teams, all have at least 2 GC options. And if it's their Kreuzweig was there last year in the Vuelta, he was very good on stage 20. As I said, I'm not sure. Hopefully he can. I do think the parcours, because of the gradients of a lot of these climbs, it really does suit Dennis, and even Harper can get over a lot of them, and Geesink.
Yeah.
But Bora have got multiple options, at least 3. One would think. Ineos have 4. UAE have at least 3, maybe 4. So you kind of need to keep Kuss in GC, I think. So because if he's not and he marks a move and he's 20 minutes back, well, it's kind of pointless. Then he has to just go back and pace Roglic. So I expect him to try and stay in GC. Sierra Nevada could be good for him. But otherwise, yeah, with the TT, with 55 TT kilometers, there's usually smaller gaps in the team time trial. It does still suit Roglic over all the parcours.
You're mentioning the 55 kilometer TTs kilometers. Okay, I just ruined that sentence, but you mentioned those kilometers, and half of those are team time trial kilometers. How much does that impact a Kuss? Because on a regular time trial, he's going to do a lot worse than on a team time trial with a team like Jumbo surrounding him. So are we overrating the amount of time trial kilometers for riders like us, knowing that half of them are team time trial kilometers?
I think I just meant the time trials kilometers suit Roglic because he's on Jumbo.
Okay.
But yeah, it's good for Koos that only half of the only half of the time trial Ks he can be helped along by Rowan Dennis, Roglic, and Affini. And Turnisson's probably good in a team time trial too, because it's a different dynamic. But that's Jumbo. They come in as the favourites for Roglic, sort of to be expected. I mean, you have to just assume he's in good shape. He's at about $3. Evenepoel's second favourite, somewhat surprisingly, at $6.50. Hindley, third favourite, too, at $7.50. Carapaz, fourth favourite for Ineos, 10. Yates, 13. He won this race in 2018. Almeida, sixth favourite at 13. Mas, 17. Lopez, 19. Sivakov, 26. Gita, 26. Rodriguez, 29. O'Connor, 34. Quintana, 41. Ayuso, 41. Koos, 41. Geoghegan Hart, 41. Plapp getting no love in the markets, but I believe in GC Plapp. I actually think he's completely underrated for this parcours. But yeah, Ineos, it's like the market's clearly saying it doesn't know who really is the leader. Same with UAE a little bit, although Almeida seems to be the one. Whereas for Quickstep and Jumbo, it's pretty polarized. But let's talk about that Ineos team, Benji. Carapaz, who's supposed to be leaving. Luke Plapp, who is sort of a late addition. Ben Turner, also a late addition. The Clock. Ethan Hayter. Sivakov. Geoghegan Hart. Carlos Rodriguez. Dylan Van Baal. Van Baal did the Tour de France. No one else on this team did do the Tour de France. It's quite a good sort of TTT squad, but who is the Ineos leader? Like, I know it's Carapaz in theory. He's got all the Palmares, although Geoghegan Hart won the Giro. But who is the Ineos leader? They have like 4 options to me.
Yeah, they certainly have like 75 cooks in the kitchen in this team. And if we analyze the squad, there's a few obvious riders that are domestiques to me. Ben Turner's a domestique in this race. Van Baal is a domestique in this race. Hayter's going to be an uphill sprint man, even though he has the ability of doing well at the time trial, and these like Puerto-like finishes might actually allow him to win an uphill finish at some point. But GC-wise, I don't believe in Ethan Hayter for this Vuelta personally. Then we start looking at the other riders that you mentioned, the 5 potential leaders in this squad. Geoghegan Hart has won the Giro, but based on his results since then, I don't consider him a GC candidate for this race. Am I going to regret that, Hindley-wise? Like, I didn't consider Hindley a GC favorite for the Giro, and he ended up winning the Giro. So there's always that possibility that Geoghegan Hart does the same in this Vuelta and makes me look stupid. But I don't believe it. I think Geoghegan Hart should be all-out domestique in this race. And then there's 4 options left. Luke Plapp, Carlos Rodriguez, Sivakov, and Carapaz. Carapaz is a proven Grand Tour winner, but this year he wasn't able to do it at the Giro. Does that make it that he's got no chance of doing GC here? I think if he's in good form, Carapaz is a podium rider for this race. Like, that's my opinion on it. But there's also the aspect of Sivakov doing well at Burgos. Rodriguez doing well in a lot of races this year. Burgos as well, where he was the second best rider on the team. Perhaps the strongest rider on Laguna Zanaya, but he worked for Sivakov the entire way through. I'd love to see Rodriguez get a GC leader role here. And then there's Plapp, and I agree with you that Plapp deserves more than just being a domestique. He's shown GC potential in multiple aspects of this season, but I fear that we've seen multiple times that Plapp has been used as a lead out for Ethan Hayter, and I'm expecting that to be the case on the stages that Ethan Hayter will go for. And while, I just don't like that, but I guess it's going to happen.
He's the wild card because weather is also important here. Do I think young Australian Luke Plapp loves the European cold and wet, messy conditions compared to hot conditions? Probably not. I think Plapp's really good in the heat. Won the Australian National Champs. He always does well in January down in Buninyong. UAE Tour, his first like proper professional race. He morally top 10 GC.
Yeah.
He came 5th on her feet, and he had to do the TT on a road bike. So he came 12th even with the TT on the road bike. He's good in the heat. Catalunya, he seemed to struggle a little bit for a lot of the stages until the stage 6 he launched Carapaz in the Gita move. Norway was cool conditions, but not raining. He was really, really good there, good watts. The question for me is, and we don't know, Ineos don't know, you never know, is, okay, he's done really well on one and done efforts. Catalunya stage 6, her feet has no kilojoules before Norway. It was quite hard, that race. It wasn't a soft race, but it wasn't 5 hours really hard before that climb Remco destroyed, and Plapp did good watts too. So the question is, can he actually deep into stage 18 where there's, more, I mean, the back end of this Vuelta are pretty soft. Like, that's the thing. How will he fare in the third week of Vuelta? Who knows? It's his first Grand Tour, but I'm hopeful. I mean, he's smart. Like, these young guys sometimes know more about nutrition than some 35-year-old riders. So I'm hoping he does really well. Obviously, I'm super biased. Like, my ideal podium is, I think, Vine, Plapp, Evenepoel. We might see it. But I still, if a guy does those watts, if a guy drops the whole peloton in Catalunya on the first climb of the day, there's something there. And with the gradients of this Vuelta, I also think Benji, Ineos, Carapaz never won a Grand Tour on Ineos.
But he would have if they sent one more domestique to the Vuelta of 2020.
Woulda, shoulda, coulda. Didn't win. So I don't think they can afford to just do a one leader. They did that in the Giro against Hindley and got slapped on Fedaya. Thanks for coming. And Carapaz going head to head didn't work. And so I think they have to use multiple leader strategy. If I was Ineos, no, I'm talking all of them, Benji. I'm talking all of them. I would do a really unusual strategy and use the first week, which I think offers a lot more than some of the later stages, and be super aggressive. Teams rarely do this. They only start to get desperate late, and then the stage 20 stuff happens. I would, if I was Ineos, try and create chaos early and put Kuss and Roglic under pressure and put Hindley under pressure, because Hindley week 1 in Giro 2020 and Giro this year, week 1 not as good as later weeks. So I would try and use all of them and attack on early climbs and just create chaos. And who do you think will come out on top for Ineos?
Well, before I get to that question, I want to respond to what you just said. If you make the race hard early, are you indirectly making hill stages where you go early the perfect situation for Remco Evenepoel to try and use and benefit from an early attack by someone else to then drop them later? No?
I think Quickstep we saw in Basque Country, we saw in Swiss. When Remco and Quickstep, and that dovetails nicely into that team, by the way. Remco bring Peter Seri, Julian Alaphilippe, Remy Cavagna, Dries Stevenijns, Evenepoel, Masnada, Van Wilder, Vervaeke. It's quite a strong team. Cavagna, I guess, is the flat rider. TTT should be pretty good. Masnada, there's a question mark over. Van Wilder look good in Burgos. Vervaeke and Seri look good in San Sebastian, where we pretty much go back to those roads here in week 1. Quickstep, when they have a plan, when they're like, this parcours was great for Remco, we're going to launch him here, a la San Sebastian, lovely, works great. Liège, plan, Redoute, which is the second last one, the one they launched him on, everyone knew it was going to happen, great. Tour de Suisse, remember the stage he just got randomly dropped on the hilly stage where Israel launched Fuglsang? And afterwards they were like, yeah, we didn't think it'd be a GC day today. And then we kind of got surprised. I was like, are you serious? And so I don't know. I'm not sure. And in Basque Country, there was a bit of chaos as well. I do think, Benji, you want to isolate Remco and kind of attack him one by one. So I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing making the race hard. I think that's better than just letting Quickstep dictate it and trying to do their thing with Remco. Because I don't trust his team necessarily to always be there, and they're not experienced in riding for GC and controlling different attacks.
The only fear I have with Quickstep is that they go for a a defensive strategy instead of an offensive strategy. We know that for Remco, attacking on early parts in stages, sometimes on moments where people don't expect it, have led to victories for him. And I fear that a few times in 1 week races this year, they've come out and said, okay, we're going to take it more relaxed. We're going to make sure we save the energy to have them at the end. I think if you can get the early advantage with Remco, it's better to do that. And if he can't hold out for 3 weeks, then he's just not good enough to win a Grand Tour as a consequence. Like, I don't know. I don't want them to do that strategy.
Like, if you think he's going to struggle on Sierra Nevada, so you're like, we shouldn't waste energy before. Well, you still need to gain time if you think he's going to lose time on Sierra Nevada. Stage 5, Irun to Bilbao, San Sebastian style Basque stage. They have to send it. The team they have, they can pace every climb on this 190k stage, and he has to send that climb. Now, he's not going to drop everybody, most likely. He won't. But these other teams have multiple GC options, and if you then have them stay in the race, like a Koos, like a Kelderman, like Plapp, like Ayuso, McNulty, or Almeida, if you have them stay in the race, you have problems then in week 2 and 3. Hindley and Roglic, okay, Roglic might be undercooked, so try him week 1, early doors. Hindley, again, he does really well in the back end of the Grand Tours. Try him early. I think they have to send that sort of stage, and even if he just to kill off a few of the GC options, and because it's just perfect for him. Anyway, I agree, Benji. That's my biggest concern, is that they think they're going to try and do like a tradition. They're going to approach it in a traditional way with a completely unique style rider.
Firmly agree, and I think an example, for example, is I think we had the Vuelta, was it last year or the year before, that we started off with Arate in the first 3 stages somewhere, I think the first stage, and we saw that the tempo was already pretty hard on that first stage, and riders like Vlasov and so forth were already behind in GC. Sure, I think Vlasov was ill that Vuelta, but that's an example like of certain riders will not start this Vuelta in perfect shape, and if you use the first week to try and counter them and put them in a position that they're behind already, then those teams internally already have to make decisions. Like, let's say that Ineos loses 2 of their 5 potential leaders in week 1. Then they're going to use those 2 riders as domestiques from that point on, is because they've still got 3 riders that are good in GC, but at least you've got 2 out of the way already. And that way you are reducing the amount of riders that can attack you in the coming stages. So I firmly agree with what you're saying. I think that would be the perfect strategy for Remco to do here. I think when it comes to the team time trial, they're going to be relatively okay. I do believe they got a strong team. Cavagna and so forth. Alaphilippe's a decent time trialist. Yeah, very true. And do they train it in the wind tunnel? I actually don't know. I think it's an airfield for a quick step.
I think they did it even back when they were in Denia in February. Remco's been at the simulated altitude hotel training with Van der Poel before this race. But yeah, again, like we'll get into it at stage 6 again, like they have to go full Sendy for Remco. And we've already spoken about Bora. They bring Hindley, Fabro, Buchmann's out. Bora said he had a UTI and can't start. Kelderman, Agita, Bennett with Van Poppel, Koch, and Mullen. So it's a split team exactly down the middle. We have 4 GC guys in Hindley, Fabro, Kelderman, Agita, and then 4 as part of the lead out for Bennett. Bennett himself, Van Poppel, Koch, and Mullen. Mullen, obviously, and Koch and Van Poppel can do rouleur duties for the GC guys. They're more than capable of that. I don't know what to expect from Hindley Benji. I've not seen him perform in the heat. I don't think the parkour suits him as well, although Sierra Nevada, there is that one stage where he could go completely mental, and it does suit him a lot. Kelderman, I think it suits really, really well, as well as Agita. I think Agita will end up being their top guy. It just the punchy finishes, I think he'll take bonus, but then there's the TT, and their TTT should be good. But again, we can probably do this a bit quicker, but I think Bora, as I said for Ineos, should keep their options open as long as possible deep into the race.
Firmly agree. I think Jai Hindley might be trying to go for that Giro Vuelta. He won the Giro, obviously. He's now trying for the Vuelta. When it comes to Kelderman, I think the time trial aspect fits him. I think the one big climb in a stage aspect also fits a Kelderman, for example, especially with the gradients that we have on them reminds me of the Etna stage in 2020, for example, although that's a pretty different Grand Tour altogether. Higuita, I think he's going to win multiple stages. I think that he's got the kick to win mountain stages from a group sprint at the top, and some of these climbs are not necessarily the stages where I expect grandiose gaps in between GC riders, but just a few that will drop, and then we'll have a group sprint at the top, and Higuita's perfect at that situation. So he's going to win multiple stages. Dead set. It's happening. Write it down in your black book. Higuita's winning multiple stages. And the question then is, will we ever see those GC leaders of Bora, for example, set something up for Higuita at the top? Or will they all ride for themselves? Let's say there's a group of 7.
Kelderman's a good teammate. He rode in stage 14 of the Giro. He's good. I think Fabro being in is better for the team chemistry because Bookman, I'm not sure he would have done that. So yeah, I think it should be okay. I don't think that. I think the better question is, Benji, this team, UAE, Ackerman for sprints, he has been looking good. He brings with him Milano as a leader, Oliveira as a sort of rouleur, Almeida, Ayuso, McNulty, Soler, Polance. They also have 4 guys who probably, I would assume, have been told you get to have your own chances here. And McNulty also, he's on the list. The parkour really suits McNulty too. I'm not sure they're going to ride for McNulty. He will. I think he's a good teammate, but will you see Ayuso and Soler ride for Almeida? Ooh, I mean, Soler did in Catalonia. He actually did on that stage for Almeida, but what do you think will happen with the Ayuso-Almeida pairing? It's back.
Well, it's a difficult situation as well when you look at the type of riders they are. Now, Almeida and Ayuso, we've had that beautiful adventure in Catalonia, for example. What a wonderful stage race that was, seeing them basically somewhat ride against each other in stages. And that is obviously giving drama and content for us. But when it comes to their team, it's intriguing. Ayuso and Almeida both have a finishing skill at the top of climbs, even though with Almeida it's difficult because how do you work for an Almeida? This rider, on a climb of 13 kilometers, with 7K to go, he will be at the back of the group. With 6K to go, he will be 10 meters behind it. He will do that for the entire climb. And in the last kilometer, he will come back to the 5 riders that are at the front. And then he might or might not have the energy to beat them. Will you, as a team, if you're McNulty or if you're Ayuso there, decide, let's say, I don't know, like...
They should sit in the front group if they can.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Neutralize it. That's good for Almeida. And then he can come back.
Yeah, but Ayuso will attack.
I don't think Ayuso's pure climbing is that good compared to some of the other top Gs. I think, like at Catalonia, he was just holding on, except for La Molina. I think he's fast, though. I think Ayuso is very, very fast in a finish, and he should have won that La Molina stage if they work well together. Now, I will say, I don't think UAE should go into this race and say, Almeida's the leader, we 100% ride for him. First of all, Almeida, it's not the mountains like that stage, that Bilbao stage, Benji. If Quickstep send that, would you be surprised if he randomly lost a minute? I wouldn't with that descent finish. Like, he can sometimes just randomly lose time in medium mountain stages when he's not expecting it, when he's at the back of the group. Like on Picon Blanco, he was at the back and he lost time to Sivakov because he was just kind of sitting at the back. I think they should keep their options open. They should, again, try and use multiple riders, hope that one of McNulty, Ayuso come good and can be GC options, and that's how I play. I also think you don't extend Juan Ayuso to 2028, longest contract in pro cycling, to be a domestique at his first home Grand Tour. And I don't think he should be tactically. It would benefit Almeida tactically if Ayuso is a co-leader.
I agree with that completely. When it comes to Almeida, it's also interesting to look into those time losses he has on those stages and ask yourself, what is the reason here? Is it a tactical reason from the team car that they weren't expecting something to happen on Picon Blanco? Nah, that's not possible. Is it because it's his strategy to be at the back and ride his own tempo on climbs that doesn't allow him to respond to attacks that happen at the front of a group? That's potentially one of the pathways you can think of. Is it just that he's a bit nonchalant on climbs? We don't know that aspect.
That's it.
Is it?
Well, okay, so mountaintop finish, Blockhouse, Laguna Stenai, it's perfect. He's doing on a steep gradient, steady. He's doing a challenge that we don't realize. He's trying to match his normalized power to his average power. Noble, and it actually works on Blockhouse and Laguna Stenai. In this sort of parkour, like that Bilbao stage, if you get detached from a split on a 6 to 7% drafting climb, and then the group goes away, and then they begin a descent, and you're in a group with Mikel Bizkarra trying to come back on a plateau, you're fucked. And you're going to lose time because it's a descent finish and then draft becomes hugely important. You can't afford to be at the back on those sort of things. So I think he gets in trouble on those, Benji, because he is doing his at the back thing, and then the parkour flips. Suddenly we're on a descent. He's on the back end of a split because he's hanging out with guys who are not as good as him, and then he's chasing back. Also, his descending, frankly, that's his biggest weakness. Like his descending is a big, big problem. It's not maybe master level, but it's not good. As well. So that's UAE. I'm actually really excited to see what Ayuso and Almeida can do. I'd also worry about maybe Almeida in the heat. I'll whip through some of the other GC guys. Bike Exchange bring another split squad. Hamilton and Yates for GC, Groves with the lead out, Durbridge, O'Brien, Scotson, Hepburn, Craddock for sprints, and their TTT squad I think will be really good. Nibali's last Grand Tour at Astana. They actually bring a really good squad. It's a really good team, Benji. Tejada, he's not had a great year, but he can be better. Fedorov, De La Cruz, Lopez, Mythical Pronsky, Batistella, Lutsenko. Of course, like they won't work for each other, but it's actually a really, really good team. Aronsman at DSM, he should be going for a top 10 here. Ineos will be hoping for on this sort of parkour with the TT and steady gradients. Degenkolb, Brenner, keen to see Brenner. Donovan and Van Dennebiel. Bahrain's not announced, but I think it'll be Landa, Maida, Pools. Betrago could be really, really good on these punchy finishes. Quintana at Arkea, EF unannounced. Movistar desperately need master top 5 at worst. They bring Anla Ultima Bala, Valverde, Mas, Verona, Oliveira, Rojas, Norsgaard, Nürburger, Luis Mas, No, Imanol Erviti, or Aaron Baru, who are doing Tour of Britain Limousin for points. So I think that's nothing to do with their shape. That just is what it is. And O'Connor, AG2. Are any of them you'd like to shine a light on, Benji?
Just to like ask, like, did you mention El Patron or not?
Oh, fuck, I didn't. So yeah, we now know Giro, the breaks went easily and early. Easy day for everybody. I looked at those Hungary stages. Oh, no, he didn't have pink then. Some of the stages very easy. Tour de France, break formation was really hard. Why was that? El Juanpe Patron was not there. He's back. Expect to see 3 Pro Conti Spanish teams in the break and an easy day for the boys because El Patron is here. He'll throw a fucking bid on at your head if you try restart break fighting when the right break is gone. So yeah, he's here. He's gone for top 10. The climbs don't suit him though. Like he's one of those guys who gets blown away like on Etna on 5-6%. Not good for him.
Yeah, and like there's also the aspect of like Bahrain, the team has not been fully announced. It's difficult to like guess those riders. You mentioned them.
Santi's doing it in Landa, I think, for sure.
Oh, okay. But I'm indeed also very intrigued by Butrago. Like you mentioned, he's shown a lot this year when it comes to winning a Giro stage, doing well at Burgos, for example. Was it Burgos? It wasn't Burgos. What stage? Oh, God. What race was it?
I think it was. Was it Burgos?
Was it Burgos?
Like the little punchy sprint, and then he lost on Laguna Stenai?
Yeah, Burgos. I hope that he has a good day, or at least a few good days in this Grand Tour. And yeah, it's going to be really sad to see the last Grand Tour of Vincenzo Nibali. I'm going to cry on the last day of this Vuelta, and there's nothing you can do about it. And
is he going to do a Contador 2017? Do you see it?
Oh, I don't see it. I'm a broken man already. I'm not in the mood to even dream. Don't give me hope, my friend. Don't give me hope.
I think he could.
I'm already getting my shark onesie out
now. That's pretty much everyone for GC. So it's a really good fight. There's also Froome and Woods at Israel and Hagen for some reason. But yeah, sprinters, it's a little bit thin on the ground. I assume Merlier is going for Alpecin, although they're not announced. Maclay for Arkea with no Buani, who's had terrible injuries after that Turkey crash, I think. So Maclay probably going for top 5s. Gerben Thijssen, I think, will win a stage. Intermarché sprinter. and Bennett obviously for Bora. Turnus and Benji mentioned, which I didn't realize, actually might go for himself. Hayter doesn't really contest bunch sprints, but will be going for the difficult stages, which end in a sprint. Ackerman has looked good at UAE, and it's thin. Peñalva at Burgos, it's really, really thin for sprinters. Groves, actually, sorry, I've been talking Groves up a lot. He's off to Alpecin. We'll see him versus Merlier. So we'll get into I think it's better to talk about the sprinters for each of the stages, and we'll do that now. But let us know down below, who do you see as a dark horse for GC? Is it a Gita? To be honest, to me, it looks really, really open, and with Roglic condition unknown, I'm really struggling to firmly put a finger on who will take up this race and dominate it. But anyway, stage 1, team time trial, 23 kilometers, pancake flat, maybe a bit technical in Utrecht. Jumbo Visma will be hugely important for them, sponsor-wise, one would think, to target this for the stage. But are they as strong as Quick-Step, who maybe trained a little bit more? I see the top teams for the team time trial as Ineos, Quick-Step, Bike Exchange, Jumbo. And I think that Bike Exchange is going to win the team time trial.
Interesting. That's actually a pretty good take, I think. I'm going to go with... I would have said Ineos. I'm going to say Ineos. I think Ineos is going to win the team time trial.
This is Bigham's this is his dream, right?
Rodriguez starts in red, finishes in red, wins the Vuelta. The end.
Does he get dropped from the team time trial by the team?
What the fuck?
Wouldn't Bigham normally, this mentioned Lanterne Rouge Discord, Bigham would normally have some sort of alternative strategy where they spend riders really early and then they drop off. But the only ones they can do that with are Van Baal and Turner. Even Hayter they might want to keep close to take a jersey. So it'd be interesting to see their strategy. Movistar have been good in team time trials in the past. Maybe that's why they brought Norsgaard. But yeah, I like Bike Exchange just because of the Durbridge, Hepburn, Craddock, Groves, O'Brien. Nah, they'll be big odds. That's a sort of a big underdog shout. The favourites are Ineos, Quick-Step, and Jumbo. Quick-Step probably will be the favourite. Stage 2, pancake flat sprint. Little first KOM is Cat 3, which is 1.2K, 3.3%. Don't know how that's a Cat 3. Flat finish in Utrecht. No Jakobsen here. I have to go with Tim Merlier, Benji.
I think so as well, and it's a common aspect of the second stage, but also the third stage, which we also go into. But before we do that, there's a bonus sprint with 17 kilometers to go, and I've got no clue what's going to happen there. Are we going to see the vicious Remco Evenepoel sprint again that we saw against Bernal? He's going to do it again?
He said he'd never do it again.
Oh, okay. But then again, he did it at Basque Country, didn't he? Before the last climb in the...
It's so pointless. Yeah. But geez, that was the last stage. He said he wouldn't do it in early stage. But I guess we glossed over the TTT. I don't expect huge gaps in the team time trial in 2019. It was 13Ks, 10K less. We're talking like 5 to 20 seconds. There were small gaps. There were crashes. Jumbo probably would have won. There might have been bigger gaps, and UAE crashed too. But I'm not expecting huge gaps, but I am expecting, Benji brought up the intermediate sprint, that unfortunately for Tim Merlier and Ackerman, or maybe not UAE, could Ackerman take the jersey, Benji? Because UAE, if they stay within 10 seconds, that's close. UAE have to stay within 10 seconds. He then needs to go to the intermediate, and then he needs to top 2 both sprints. It's possible Ackerman takes the jersey.
Oh, as in Ackerman takes a jersey
after stage 3.
TTT, after stage 3.
Yeah. Because I think Alpecin will try that with Merlier, but I don't think they'll stay close enough. But UAE's TTT might be better.
I don't believe it. I don't see it happening. Ackerman will not take the jersey after 3 stages. I believe Merlier will most likely win 1 or 2 stages in the first 3. I'd say let's go with 1. Let's not give it all to Merlier here. And then he should dip out after stage 3. We know that stage 3 is also completely flat from Breda to Breda, near Belgium, by the way, so close to my heart. And it's also completely flat. So
I know there's not much to say. It's like the Denmark. Groenewegen and Jakobsen split the Tour de France sprints in Denmark. Merlier, I think, takes one, and I think Herben Taysen takes the other one. Or do you think he's going to be better? anyway, I think Herben Taysen for that one. But I think Ackermann takes the jersey after stage 3. I think Alpecin should save the airfare and the air miles on Merlier and let him stay in Dutch-speaking countries before the transition day. So who have you got for stage 3?
I will go for, when it comes to stage 3, another like pure
Groves.
flat sprint. I'm not gonna go for Groves. I think I'm gonna go for Groves on one of the like
mixed
rougher sprint stages that come in Spain afterwards. I'm gonna go for Mes Pedersen.
Oh, he's here, true. And it's in Northern Europe. Okay. And because he might not like the heat.
And is his team good enough to take the jersey, knowing Dan Hole, Motor Hole is there?
Yeah, Dan Hall is like the biggest human I've ever fucking seen. If you look at the Netherlands European Champs team photo, he's like 2 meters tall. Yeah, so maybe they should be Tiberi, although they do have Juan Pei and Kenny, them in the TTT. Holy shit. I can't wait to see that. They shouldn't be allowed to pull. It should just be rotating the big Northern European guys on the front. I love Kenny. He looked good in Burgos. Watch out for Kenny. Could win a stage. Anyway, they then go down to, not to Basque Country initially. Sorry, I misspoke. It's in Navarra region, I think, in Vitoria-Gasteiz to LaGuardia. It does look like this is going to be interesting. 154 Ks. There's like, it's sort of soft medium mountain with like 3K 7%, 5K 7%, but early. And then the last main climb is 3Ks 8%. And then rolling ridge line is 6.6Ks 5.2% overall. And then an uphill kick, which is, it's uncategorized, but it's too hard for sprinters, I think. It looks like the Ethan Hayter finish. And here's the problem, Benji. Are Ineos going to pace for Ethan Hayter like they did on Tour de Romandie Stage 1 when they have all these GC guys and set Hayter up for this stage? Are Quickstep, is Remco going to pace for Julian Alaphilippe like he did in the Basque Country and try and set him up for this stage? Are Jumbo Visma going to pace for Primoz Roglic for him to try and take bonus or a stage here? Or even Ayuso could be good on this. These are the questions I don't know the answers to. If I was the DS of any of those teams, my answer would be no, and I'd let the break win this stage.
I think so as well. Now, with Israel, you've also got the question, Bevan Impey. There's also a similar finish for them, I guess. Yeah. I think they're candidates for that, but will they be able to, will Itamar Ardenhorn and Omar Goldstein and De Marchi be able to control from the peloton, for example? I think this is the kind of stage where you can expect a break to win because the peloton might underestimate, but it also depends on who has the jersey initially, Like, if the rider in the jersey from the team time trial is a rider that wants to get rid of the jersey, then that's fine. If it's a rider that is, I don't know,
Intermarché, if somehow Herben Taysen has a jersey.
Yeah, but he's losing it anyway on this stage.
I don't know.
Nice try.
But I get what you mean. If it's a rider who, it is a big thing for him to have the jersey, that team will pace. If it's we said Quickstep shouldn't be defensive, but I also don't think they should take upon them the responsibility to just control a stage for nothing. And I think it takes a lot of discipline to let the jersey go. And I just see this as a waste of energy. I mean, maybe they send the 3K 8% client. Everyone's going to be fresh, though. I'm really struggling to know who's going to win this stage. And what I would actually love, Benji, is for Valverde to deliberately lose 15 minutes in the Netherlands and go on the break this stage.
It's not going to happen, mate.
Of course it won't happen. But I'd love to.
Well,
I'll just
Movistar might lose 15 minutes in a team time trial.
They've always been all right in the team time trials. I'm going with Quentin Pacher from the break.
I'd even argue that if it's not from the break, he might get a top 5 because he's got that kick.
Punchy this
I'm
year.
going for I just want to see a random Spanish break, okay? Give it this stage. We've seen stages like this in the Vuelta, again, 2020, 2019, I don't know, where Soler attacked on the second last climb and ended up winning with a downhill finish.
And it could be rainy here.
I'm going to go for Raúl García Pierna from Equipo Ken Pharma.
Don't know who that
Patrick's like, who the fuck is that?
I only know Roger Adria.
He's the Spanish national champion time trial. He was 21st on Laguna Zanaya, so he's not dog shit.
Okay.
And in Adriatica Ionica, he got third on a hilly stage. So he can get over hills. He's going to go in the break and win a stage in the Vuelta, and everybody's going to be like, who the fuck is that?
Okay, that's not a bad shout. Look for Gernelek from the break as well. But I think Pacher takes it and takes the jersey. I also think Battistella should try and get the break for Astana. But I really think you should be letting Pacher's the perfect guy to give the jersey to, right, Benji? Because he climbs just well enough that he can keep it for a while. Also, FDJ will honour the jersey and do the controlling, but he's not good enough to be a real GC threat. I think he's the perfect guy to give the jersey to. Stage 5, this is the up and down stage in the Basque Country from Irun to Bilbao. Again, it could be raining, and we have reps of the Alto del Viero, which is 4.7k, 7.7%, with some steeper sections in there. Then the descent is 14 kilometers into Bilbao. Just went there the other day. It was hot, so if it's that sort of weather, it's not going to be Marc Soler style stage. I hope to see a GC attack, but again, Benji, it's a lot of controlling. I think Julian Alaphilippe wins this stage from a group sprint.
I actually like that take. I do like that take.
He'll be the favorite. It's the obvious pick.
It is a pretty obvious pick. I'm going to go with Ethan Hayter on this stage. I believe he's surviving those hills and beating Alaphilippe in the end.
Yeah, fuck.
I think the Alto del Vivero is the same climb that's going to be in the Tour de France 2023 Basque Country start. He's in stage 1, I think, that climb. So interesting to see what's going to happen here with Alaphilippe at the start, because that might explain what might happen in 2023 in the Tour de France in that parkour. I think it's also in Circuito de Getxo, by the way. Anyway, nice parkour. I like it.
I like it.
You were talking about Alaphilippe, but Remco early. Come on.
No, we both know. I know. We both know what we think should happen, but the reality is, I think it's going to be a group sprint. I do think Quickstep, if they want Alaphilippe to win, he's not as fast as Hayter. They need to send that. Dark horses for this is Patrick Bevan and Daryl Impey once again. If it's a bit soft, Bevan beat Hayter in a sprint in Romandy in a similar sort of maybe a bit lighter parkour. Stage 6, this is the first mountaintop finish. It is 179 Ks from Bilbao to Ascension al Picojano San Miguel de Aguayo. Jesus Christ, the climb name's longer than the climb on the profile. This is actually quite a hard stage. It's got rolling medium mountain. It's got 8.6k, 6%. That won't do anything early, but it's up and down all in the middle in the valley. It's not a flat valley. Then they got like 4k, 7% descent, then an uphill drag, then 6.2ks, 8.7% with a steep finish with about 45 kilometers to go, descent. Then the first 7Ks of this climb is 8%. There's then a flat little plateau in the middle for a K or so. And then the last bit, I think, is a bit shallower. It's 12.6K, 6.6% overall. Again, climbs with a flat section in the middle of it. Remco Evenepoel, this is where Quickstep should be trying to let him attack, where he attacks just before the flat section. He gets a gap. He's suddenly going at 45 kilometers an hour. Hindley and others are looking at each other like, I don't feel like chasing this. And then he can motor to the finish. Will that happen? I'm not sure. I do think...
Yeah.
Do you think break, though? Like, I'm going with Jay Vine for the stage, but do you think the break is actually going to make it? Because it's a long day to control.
I'll be honest, I find it very difficult to guess at this point, from before the Grand Tour starting, whether there's going to be teams willing to control these stages. So I'm just going off my idea that if it comes to actually GC winning these stages, I think Remco Evenepoel wins the stage in a similar fashion that you mentioned and takes the red jersey on day 6 of this Vuelta a España. And yes, a user when so forth might respond to that. Hey, Carlos Rodriguez. Almeida will probably try and hold on to the back of the group that is chasing, for example, until the top of the climb, and then we'll attack that group, and then we'll gain a few seconds on those riders. But
this is one of those climbs where that doesn't suit so much. The end of this, it's not 9%.
Yep. I think Remco takes red here.
Okay, simple. Not a bad shout. I don't disagree really, but I'm going with the break. I'm going with Vine. Next stage, really weird stage, 194 Ks. I think they're going down to the Castilla-Leon region. It's finishes in Cistierna. It has one 20K 6% climb in the middle, and then a rolling. It looks like a Vuelta San Juan stage, and then after that is 63 Ks of flat. So there's literally a first cat and nothing else in the middle of the stage, and it's shallow. I think Ineos have to go for Hayter on this, surely. This is the Hayter against Bevan. Does Groves make it?
I agree that Hayter should be the man for Ineos to go for on a stage like this. We saw a similar stage in, was it some Norwegian race? The one that Evenepoel won, where they had echelons also after the climb in the middle of the stage.
That was shorter though. 20K, 6%. 20.
That's a long one.
The sprinters really, they're good from like 5 to 15, but 20Ks at 6% is going to be half an hour plus.
Yep. I'm afraid that it's going to be tough for Groves as well to get over this in one piece. But it's also still 65 kilometers after the climb that they need to keep it going. Does Ineos have the manpower to do so? Will there be other riders that are from other teams where we see a GC rider having a bad day and dropping on that San Glorio climb, and then other teams are like, oh, well, actually, we want that guy out of the race. Let's just put a rider at the front and help out, for example. Israel with Bevan, for example, that rider can get over a climb like this.
Yep.
So I see that happening. I see...
So you think Ineos will get help from people?
Yes, I think so. I think Hayter wins the stage. Yes, I've named him like twice already, but it's going to happen.
Or could there be a breakaway? Could a breakaway... I don't know. This is like for a Hayter and Bevan, I think it should be... Yeah, I'm going to go with Hayter as well, just because it fits him so perfectly. The next stage, stage 8, second last before the rest day, first rest day, Saturday stage, 156 Ks. This is quite hard. If this was stage 20, we would see absolute fireworks from the gun because it opens up with a 7K 6.3% climb. We would see satellite riders getting the breakaway. We would see action, but we probably won't because it's not the end of the race, unfortunately. So there's it's just medium mountain all day, 7K 6% into 5Ks 5.5%, 5.5%, 6Ks 5.5%, 3.8Ks 8%, then about 30S of rolling flat before the Fanquaya climb, this hard climb, 10.3K, 7.8%, but the steeper sections in it. This climb looks quite good for Hindley, and he won stage 9 in Blockhouse from a group sprint. I am going with João Almeida.
Ooh, spicy. I think the initial uphill climb start means that there's going to be attempts for a larger breakaway to form. Will enough people already behind in GC to make that happen? I think they will. And therefore, I'm going to call a victory for Juanpe Lopez on this stage. Because why not?
It is a bit steeper. It does suit him a bit more.
El Patron.
Yeah. El Patron. Maybe takes red. Give him red as well.
And then he will be El Patron again.
Yeah. I mean...
The thing is... Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I echo what you said in the previous stage or the stage before. It's really hard to know what teams are going to want to do. Like, again, if I was Ineos, and I'm not, but if I was Ineos and I really I don't want a podium, I want to win this race with somebody, I would get Luke Plapp to absolutely fucking launch that first climb, and like he did in Catalonia, I would get him to full send it.
Yeah, but what happens afterwards?
He can hang on. He's fine. He's better now. It was raining in Catalonia. It's gonna be hot here. He's good. Don't worry about him. He'll be fine. He'll be in the group, and then try and isolate Evenepoel and then create carnage. It won't happen because it's stage 8. But if you want to win the race, you have to use your numbers. Sivakov is good on this too. Sivakov's really strong on these 7K 6% climbs. Same with Rodriguez, who's a good descender, efficient riders. That's what I would try and do to put Roglic, Hindley, Evenepoel under a lot of pressure early.
I think when it comes to these stages, it's also intriguing, and we haven't mentioned it too much about the previous stages either. For example, in stage 5, we had on that Alto del Vivero a bonus gate at the top, for example, will we see an attack of an Evenepoel on the Vivero to try and make that happen before they end up winning that stage inevitably with Alaphilippe, because that's what you said would happen, or Ethan Hayter, because that's what I said would happen. The stage afterwards, we had a bonus gate on the second last climb. In this stage that we're talking about right now, we have a bonus gate that is basically with 56 kilometers to go on a random hill. Like, the break takes that, right?
Yeah.
What's the point?
I don't really know. Juanpe will make people let him take it, I guess, if he's in the break. Or are you saying he's winning from the GC group from break?
No, breakaway. Like, I just wanted to mention that this bonus gate, I don't know why they put it there, but it makes zero sense.
Remember when they had that 3K 12% wall, 80 Ks from the finish, and Jumbo rode up it with rouleaus, 6 across the road at 3 watts per kilo? Like, it was like a really hyped wall, and then just the break was ahead. That was last year, wasn't it? I think Fine was in the break. Anyway, I'm hopeful for this stage, a hard finish. I think Almeida and Ayuso do well on this finish. Stage 9. The only ramp-ass finish, 176 Ks. It has medium mountain, again, all day, and then the Praeres climb, 3.8 Ks, 13%, super, super steep, 13% average for 3.8 Ks. It's very, very hard. That being said, you got to remember about these sort of climbs. Everyone's like, how Sivakov, he can't compete in this Vuelta because of Praeres. It's like the time gaps, I think, on this last time, they're very, very small because it is a short climb. It's not a 20-minute climb. The time gaps shouldn't be hugely decisive. That being said, I have to go with Roglic, Benji. Really, no one's in his class of puncher here except maybe Erlights Remco. Ooh, that's the one.
It's gonna be a 1v1.
Pardon?
It's gonna be 1v1. Roglic versus Woods, and that we haven't mentioned Roglic too much so far, and obviously if he's in fantastic form, then he's gonna be fucking great in this first week as well. But it's impossible for us to know whether he's gonna be in that form or not. So I'm kind of just like expecting him to be good, but also not expecting him to be godlike in week 1 and then right into the race towards the end. That's how I see it. And with this stage, it's for far enough into the race for him to start mattering when it comes to not playing it defensively anymore and going offensive. And I think him versus Woods is a good take, and I'm going with Woods because it's going to take one more day before Roglic is in top form.
Well, and Woods is actually, Murderwee's not steep enough for Mike Woods. Mike Woods, if a climb is, we saw in that Galician 4-day race, I know it's not the biggest race, but Woods on like stupid steep for 2Ks plus is world class there with Roglic. Like, he's so good on it. I think it's Alaphilippe. I don't see Benji. No. I just don't see it. Remco, people are probably expecting Remco to lose a lot of time on this. If he's holding shape, I'm not expecting him to lose a lot of time either.
Arensman.
That's where, Arensman, Plapp, Sivakov, they're the sort of guys who won't be looking forward to this climb in particular. I'd love again to see Bala in the break, but that's before the first rest day of the Vuelta. We've had a decent number of stages that could be GC stages, but I actually think we could have 6 breakaways in a row.
Yeah, second rest day, right? We have a rest day
I don't count the first. Well, yeah, first proper rest day, transition day from Netherlands to Spain. And then we have the time trial. We are actually in Alicante, from Elche to Alicante, 31.5 Ks, pretty flat, like very, very flat. Perfect for Evenepoel and Roglic. And I think Evenepoel wins the TT, Benji.
I think so as well. I think we always forget to mention Cavagnan time trials, but Evenepoel is a better time trialist, so
I don't forget.
You just don't mention him.
I'll just committed to the bit at this point.
I ruined the bit now by mentioning him. Oh God, I ruined the meme. Anyway, when it comes to this time trial, it's pretty pancake flat. To be honest, there's one small bump in the last 5 kilometers. So Remco Evenepoel takes it, and that brings us to actually GC rider. We all with the team time trial and with the time trial, we mentioned who's gonna win it, who's gonna do well when it comes to GC riding, who's gonna have a dog shit time trial. That's what I want to talk about. Who's gonna be so terrible that we're gonna laugh at it. That's what we need to know.
Rodriguez.
Oh, get out of here! Get out of here!
I don't think his TT is that good.
You're a fucking criminal.
Anyone on Intermarché, Froome, Woods. Chavez, Landa, Quintana won't be good. Juanpe, Miguel Angel Lopez, fair few. I think Hindley will be fine. Igita should be okay. But the TT, we've sort of, with this TT coming up, Benji, Plapp should do well. Sivakov and Rodriguez will just do fine. They won't do spectacular. Plapp should do better than them. Carapaz should do okay, but not terrible. Evenepoel, Roglic, what are they taking here? A minute? Or a lot of riders? Doesn't that mean that Hindley's and the Carapaz of this world do have to be attacking those guys in week 1?
I think a lot of the time when we look at a Grand Tour, we often see that on the mental side of things, they start panicking more after the time trial than before the time trial. So
they wait to see the actual loss. They don't project the loss.
Exactly. And sometimes they come too late by the end because of that. So it's hard to predict whether teams are going to be like, oh, let's take time before the time trial because we're going to need it. Instead of like, oh, we lost time in the time trial. Now we need to take time. That kind of stuff. But I do want to mention that we forgot a few riders when it comes to the actual time trial. I think Arensman will have a great time trial, for example. This is where he takes time back that he loses on that steep climb, for example. That's where he returns to the top. Great time trial is at Polonia, for example. Hater's going to do well for the stage, top 3. Ooh. Definitely.
Yeah, and Hater's good.
Don Hall is going to get a good result.
No, I don't see. I mean, yeah, Don Hall maybe. Hater's a good result. I think, Hater, Evenepoel, Roglic will be the top 3. But I think Benji's right about the mentality of time loss. Next stage is one of the poultry sprint stages, 194.5 Ks, finishing in Cabo de Gata. I think Caden Groves wins this because he's Philipsen light, and Merlier might be not here anymore. So, I'm going with Groves.
I was also going to go for Groves. So this is a bit sad now because now I have to pick someone else. And no, I won't. I will stand by Groves. Sorry, but I'm not switching around because you're switching around. So Groves win the stage for me. That's how I see it on this one.
Next one, 195K, stage 12. This is could be, for the watts per kilo lovers, one of the highest level performances of the year to finishing in Peñas Blancas. It is an easy stage before, no categorized climbs, and then from sea level, not to altitude, a 20 kilometer, 6.4% test. They could go, it's maybe a little bit shallow for the watts per kilo. You'd like it 8%, 7 to 8%, but again, it's a climb that really suits Remco. It really suits Roglic. It doesn't suit the Lopez Quintanas of this world. I think Roglic wins this in a sprint, Benji, and works with Evenepoel.
Okay. It's a pretty long climb. You're right. Like, I also believe in the Roglic for this one, but again, in this Grand Tour, we're gonna know the day before, perhaps, if there's going to be teams that are looking likely to control these stages, because this is like 170 kilometers of relative flatness to control. True. And then that final climb,
I'm changing.
It's impossible to... Oh, okay. We've got Fine from the breakaway?
Yep.
Really? I fucking knew it. Damn it. I'm going to go for Roglic.
For him, man.
I'm going to steal your pick then. Roglic wins.
All right. And to be honest, if Roglic and Evenepoel have just taken time in the TT and week 1's been soft, why would they need to be aggressive? And then if you're Bora, is this the climb you're going to try with Hindley? I don't think so. If you're Ineos, Sivakov, it kind of suits, but you're not going to back yourself against Remco and Roglic. So Benji's convinced me that the break is winning, therefore Jay Vine is winning. I don't know if Jan Hirt is doing this race, but that's what I'm going with. Although Champoussin, fine, smoke Champoussin. Even though Champoussin, big money deal at Arkea. Next stage, 170 Ks to Montilla. It is no categorized climbs, rolling all day. It's got a little uphill kicker. I don't actually know how hard it is. It's really difficult to see. I think it is. This is, to me, really borderline, where I actually think Ackermann could surprise on this stage, and I think Pascal. I reserve the right to change this if someone shows me the actual readout of the final. It should be Hayter winning in theory, but I'm going with Ackermann.
Mess Pedersen wins this stage in an uphill sprint
true.
because he's good at that.
He's so good at these. Essay,
yeah.
she won, right?
Yeah.
That steep one?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Paris, right?
That was a bit shallower.
Yeah.
Then that was like but yeah, I think Pedersen's a great shout for this. Okay, good call. Stage 14, Saturday, 160.8 Ks. This looks like a Fuga de la Fuga, take time back in the breakaway stage to me. It finishes in Sierra de la Pandera. It is shallow at the start, so it'll be hard to get in the break. And then they have 10.1 Ks, 5.5%, short rest, 8.5 Ks, 7.6%. I don't really see why, unless you're Ineos and you want to try attacking with multiple leaders in the little plateau before the climb to create chaos, I don't really see the purpose of a GC team pacing. It does go up to 1850. I'm trying to think of who's Storer of last year that could win this stage.
I've got him.
Oh, really? Who?
Jaakko Hänninen.
No, come on.
Mate, he got 4th at Tour de l'Ain, rode really well there, 28th at Donostia San Sebastian, 30th at Burgos. I think he's building up to a really decent... I think he's winning a stage in the Vuelta. I just don't know if it's going to be this one.
I'm going with Carlos Verona from the break, taking time back on GC and the stage, winning this one. Stage 15, this is the big boy. This is what Hindley, Lopez, Koos have been waiting for. 148.3 Ks. We have Perch, which is hard. I re-looked at it. It's like the first 3 Ks are very, very hard. 9.1 Ks, 7.5% descent. And then Sierra Nevada XL. 4.6 Ks, 11% to start. I've got some thoughts on that. And then it's 19.5 Ks, 8% overall. So that first start is super, super hard. The first 7.3 is 9.6%. So just a tip to all the teams, if you want to beat Remco Evenepoel, Carpena first he's kind of like Almeida. Carpena first descent. Micah, this is what Micah always does. He goes to the front, he pushes above threshold super hard, and then dials it back. He did that on Carpena. Remco dropped mentally, like I think he did second Carpena faster than first Carpena.
Yeah.
I would pace the start of this extremely hard and hope that Almeida and Remco have an issue, particularly Almeida, because after it's hard, it's one of these climbs where it levels off, and suddenly Almeida will have to spend a lot to come back in the draft when he doesn't have a draft on the shallower 6%. So, yeah, I think Bora and Jumbo should really send the base of this.
Do you consider the last part of this climb hard enough for a Miguel Angel Lopez to make the difference on high altitude, or is it not hard enough when it comes to the gradient for that to occur?
That's the problem. Is it's not like Monteiro or other sort of
Lows.
Lows. Exactly. Good point. It's, I don't know. It's, where does it start to get steep? Lows went to 2350. So no, it's 7.1% at 2350. And if he goes and he's not in a GC fight, like in the stage he won in the Vuelta last year, Roglic was like, I'm not going to fight that battle. And Lopez went, I think it is just steep enough. I think Hindley, it suits a bit more than Lopez. He's a little bit heavier. I think this is really, really good for Hindley, this climb. And so I'm going to go with Jai Hindley for this climb. If it was steeper, I'd probably go with Lopez.
Okay, I enjoy your take there. I believe that's a very viable option for this one. I am going to I kind of low-key want Quintana to win this stage, but I just don't believe it's happening.
It's again not steep enough. Like he can, but like Grenal,
exactly.
his performance on Grenal was spectacular. Climbs 9%. The guy's 58 kilos, and it is to super high altitude. What about GC Koos, Benji?
I don't believe in Koos winning this stage. Roglic wins the stage.
Roglic is underrated to altitude. He is like, just because he's not, like if he was Colombian, everyone would say he's a really good altitude rider. He's a good altitude rider. Yeah, Roglic is a great shout too. The next stage after the last rest day, 191 Ks. Will we see this is so weird. It's got no categorized climbs. Then a 1,500, I like it, a 1,500 meter, 6.1% climb. This is what I talk about in the transfer pod about not wanting pure sprints, something interesting. 8Ks to go. Just a random 6% 1,500 meter climb. I think Groves wins this stage. I think he gets over it.
Ooh, spicy. Is the last...
Like, are Ineos going to be investing in week 3 for Hayter? Are they going to commit? They need it. They need Plapp or someone to pace.
Plapp will pace for Hayter and will do a lead out. You know it's going to happen.
Okay, but how demoralizing will it be if they do that and Tour de Romandie stage 1 happens again? In the 3rd week of a Grand Tour when guys are trying to go for GC.
Yeah, but if you, like, they can't just think about Tour de Romandie stage 1 the entire way.
If you don't try, you don't get shit.
Exactly. So I believe Hayter will try. I believe the likes of a Turnison will try to get over this. Mes Pedersen, Bevan, Impey, riders like that. Again,
who's
I
Spanish
think on this
Burger,
stage... Who's Spanish Burger, though?
Yeah.
Roger Adria?
Yeah.
Didn't he win that?
He's like 20 kilos, isn't he? He can't do it. I mean, an attack on the
Didn't
climb.
He win a sprint in Valenciana?
No,
or
he
was
did.
that his... I don't remember.
No, he won an uphill sprint in La Route d'Occitanie against Valgren and Simon, who are actually fast. So that's not a bad shout. But I mean, someone to attack on the climb like Mikel Xavier Asperen to attack on the climb, or Rudy Millard. But yeah, or Jake Stewart.
By the way, yeah, I was just going to name Jake Stewart and ask, like, what do you expect from this guy? Is he like... Because his time trial last year in Bessèges was great on an uphill kind of like thing, but we haven't seen much of him since then. And then he won a stage recently, but not a top level race. So,
well,
I don't know what to expect.
You just said that Jaakko Heinonen came 8th in GC at Tour de Lens. So
yeah, but no, 4th in GC in that race, by the way, and almost won the race. So I rate Heinonen much more than I rate Stewart at the moment.
Mate, that Tour de Lens, that was a bullshit race. Like,
get out of here.
Sos is making groups on 5K, 6% climbs is... Anyway, it's good to see Heinonen. He's good talent, but yeah, I hope he does do better. I still think it's a sprint. I think Groves wins. Anyway, stage 17, getting into the back end. This is soft. We're talking guys going to be behind on GC. What are they going to do on this? 160 Ks, 1 categorized climb. It's got 4Ks, 7.5% at the start, and then it's 9Ks, 5% overall. Like, what gaps can you achieve on this sort of climb? This has to be break, Benji. And I'm going with Santiago Petrago, I think. Or I don't know. It's weird because it's so... Oh no, there's climbs at the start. I don't know. It's a weird stage. Luis Leon, is he even coming? Who do you like?
I think it's a breakaway, and I think when it comes to the breakaway, it's going to be a name that we haven't mentioned yet. Have we mentioned him yet? I don't know. Have we mentioned anyone on Lotto Soudal, by the way?
I was going to say Steph Kras, yeah.
Possibly. And when I look at other teams, like... what will Arkea do? Will they put all their eggs in Quintana again, or are they going to have a De La Plaza or Gisbert going in breakaways sometimes? Yeah. We don't know that aspect. When it comes to Burgos, they're going to be on breakaways left and right with Yesabol and so forth, but I don't see that team winning a stage, for example. When it comes to DSM, will they allow a Marco Brenner to go in the breakaway, a Wiedeberg, a Mark Donovan, for example? And fuck it, Marco Brenner wins the stage.
He's good. He's looking really, really good. I'm going with Bruno Armirail from the breakaway for this one. And another guy I haven't mentioned, 2 guys, is Igita and Yates. I guess Igita you can pencil in for any of the sort of Roglic, Almeida punchy finishes. Yates, I don't know. Like, Yates is good enough to win on stage 8, Funkaya climb. Wouldn't be surprised, but it's going to be tough. But Yates, of course, I expect to be there as well. Stage 18. This is a stage, again, 190 Ks. It has 2 Category 1 climbs, but they're shallow. There's 3.7 Ks, 8.6%. There's then 13.6 Ks, 5%. Descent, 13.3 Ks, 5.6%. Super shallow from sea level. I think Verona I think Verona wins this, Benji. I have to go for him again. And takes time back in the breakaway. I don't know what his shape will be. Or who do you like? Why would what can GC do on 5%?
I don't know, but is there going to be anyone crazy enough to try something on that La de Espera 10% climb halfway the race to set up for pure null and so forth? I don't know. Are they going to try and make it hard already from that point onwards and then attack away on pure null for that bonus gate, for example, try and make it to the finish line, stuff like that? It's not hard enough, pure null. I don't know. When I look at this final climb, I'd say Ayuso wins the sprint in the bunch at the end of the climb against the Roglic and so forth, even though Roglic could also win it. But it's kind of a stage where we, again, don't know if it's breakaway or GC. I'm just going to wing it and say breakaway, and I'm going to go for Ayuso on this one.
I'm changing to Buitrago for the record. The next stage, stage 19, again, it's 132k short. It has 2 reps of a 9k 6% climb. It's just, I don't think it's hard enough to try any sort of raid tactics, really. Maybe, I mean, if Evenepoel's behind, maybe Quickstep can try, but if he's ahead, it's going to be difficult. Again, I see breakaway. It should be probably a small group sprint who's quick that could get in the breakaway. I'm going to go with Ethan Hayter should try and get in the break here. Isn't that the play for him to get in the break? Or Alaphilippe in the break? But I'm going to go with Juan Milano.
Wait, what? Really?
Can he climb all right or not?
I wouldn't rate him on this stage.
Yeah, all right. You do yours, and then maybe I'll change my mind.
Well, when it comes to this stage, it's like, is it a possibility to play tactical when it comes to trying to get into breakaways with multiple riders if you still have multiple GC riders at the start of the stage? The climbs aren't necessarily hard, so
short.
Yeah,
it's just not hard enough. There's probably going to be
a sprint. I don't know who's going to win the stage at all. A sprint, is it? Nah, I don't think so.
I'm going with Harry Sweeney.
Are you? Yeah. I have no clue who's going to win the stage. I don't even know who to pick at all for this one.
Such a weird stage.
Higuita from a Jew? Nah, no, I don't even believe that. I'm going to go for Roglic, and I don't know how.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Okay, stage 20. Again, I don't really see too much GC options in the third week, and this is the final opportunity. 176 Ks. This is the final one. Medium Mountain Deluxe. 10.4 K, 6.5% at the start. That offers something, whether it's pacing hard or getting satellite riders in the break. Then 10.3 Ks, 5.4%, 7.3, 4.8, straight into 9.27% descent, and then 10.5 Ks, 5.6% before a plateau. Now, you maybe think 6K plateau. Maybe thinking these climbs aren't hard. The last climb isn't hard enough. Well, if you're behind on GC, if you're trying to use teammates, if you're using satellite riders, you don't actually want the final climb to be hard. You want basically a situation where a Jai Hindley is chasing you on a 5.6% climb while you're being paced by a 70-kilo teammate who can actually, the draft is really, really important, like a McNulty. If McNulty gets in the break and he's pacing Almeida on that final climb, or a teammate, McNulty can go super fast on that sort of gradient. So that's why, but the second last climb is hard enough, 9.2 Ks, 7%, where you can try something. So hopefully we see it like last year, fingers crossed. And yeah, who do you think's winning, Benji?
I just want to mention that going over this parkour again, I see less and less opportunities for Carlos Rodriguez to actually podium this Grand Tour.
I know, it's so shallow. That's why
it's such a bad Grand Tour for Carlos. Exactly. But like, it also adds to the idea that Remco's Grand Tour possibilities are more and more the more I look at these profiles, because it is actually like the perfect Grand Tour for Remco to do well, except for. Exactly. But the stage 20, I hope that we see raids. I really don't care who wins this stage. Like, I just want to see raids on the stage, and I think we're going to see that happen. There's enough teams that are going to be willing to do so. I think Ineos has been quite offensive this year in trying to do so. I think they're going to fail to do so. I think that
we haven't
Remco
mentioned
wins the
Carapaz
stage.
once.
Exactly. This is not a Grand Tour for Carapaz.
We have said the words 5 to 6% about 100 times in this podcast so far. Like, it's really suitable for the Remco and Roglic guys. Like, I think Remco wins this stage, Benji. I think if he gets a gap on that 6K plateau, you can say goodbye. Now, if he's still here, whatever. But I think he wins this stage and seals this GC.
I was in the camp that said, oh, Remco is going to do in 2 stage, 3 stage, and perhaps like top 7 this Grand Tour. The more I look at the profiles, the more I realize that he's got more and more chance of actually doing something significant in this.
Well, if he's behind, he has to try on this stage. So
yeah, 100%.
I think that's why he probably does win it.
I think Remco Evenepoel wins this stage as well. I even mentioned it before you said he would win this stage. Just want to get that on the record.
Well, I think we are legally allowed to say the same rider. Final stage, 101 Ks in Madrid. It's a little uphill drag, I think. Ackermann's won it before. I'm going with Ackermann again with the Milano lead out. Milano takes everyone else out and Ackermann wins. Is Merlier still here, Benji?
No. Like,
okay.
He's not still here. I don't believe in Merlier finishing a Grand Tour in 2022. And the question then is
Tyson, Groves.
Yeah, it's gonna be like some of that in the top 3.
Peñalva.
Sam Bennett, no. This year I don't see it.
Van Poppel. Do you just let Van Poppel go for it?
Possibly, but I'm gonna go for Groves.
Okay. That was all our picks. I'm sure someone will add all that up. We've spoken a lot during the stage analysis about how we think GC will play out and discuss that. That's why that took quite a while. It is really like, do not be taken in by the discussions. It's the Vuelta, like it's the steep rampas. This is really interesting. Could be boring, end up being boring, but it's a different parcours. That really the teams will have to make the race, although the exception is Sierra Nevada, which is disgusting. But the good thing is, Benji, if a Lopez, a Hindley, a Yates go clear on Sierra Nevada, take big time, there is this medium mountain stuff at the back end for a Sivakov, Roglic, Evenepoel to try stuff. Now time for predictions, which inevitably we might get wrong. First, KOM jersey, which I think will go to a breakaway rider, just because I think there will be a lot of breakaway wins this Vuelta a España, although, there's just not very many early categorized climbs. I'm going with, for me, it was between Pacher, Army Rail, Pinot, and Vine, so I have to go with Vine.
You have to go. It's legally obliged to go for Jay Vine on this one, but when it comes to my pick for it, I was like on the fence because there's so many of these stages that have a finishing climb that the GC teams, the GC riders, GC leaders might be winning it at the top. But there's also the aspect that, hey, Gita might take that stage, or Roglic might take that stage, and Evenepoel that stage. So they're going to be stealing from each other in the same way that breakaway riders are going to be stealing from each other if breakaway stages happen. So I'm 50-50 when it comes to, is it going to be a breakaway rider or a GC rider? So if it's a GC rider, I'm going with Roglic because I trust his finishing skills on a uphill finish the most, even though his form is relatively unknown. But if it's a breakaway rider, then I want to say Pinot, but
he won't go for it.
I'm going to go with Pinot.
I mean, it would be kind of curious that he ignored it in the Tour de France and then in the Vuelta he targeted it. But stranger things have happened.
But maybe it's the factor that the level of breakaways might be easier here and he'll win stage and therefore have more competition for the KOM and therefore be in the running when he's like, okay, I'm in the running for KOM. Let's go for it now.
I should have picked him for a breakaway uphill stage when he's actually in good shape at Swiss, wasn't he? Didn't he win a stage or nearly? No, I can't remember. Anyway, that was KOM. Points jersey, I'm going for Ackermann. I think he's going to surprise and have quite a nice Vuelta a España. Will he, he's got a sprint for 5th and 6th and things like that. If the break even wins, I'm going with Ackermann. I don't think Merlier makes it around, so it's really between him and Groves out of the sprinters, if there is enough sprint sort of stages.
When it comes to mine, I again, very similar to the KOM discussion. I think it's a 50-50 between a GC rider taking it and a sprinter. I think there's limited sprint options. I think Groves and Ackermann do have the best chance of getting it, and therefore I'm leaning towards Groves in that sense. But when it comes to GC riders, I see Remco winning a few stages, so I'm going to go with Remco on this one. Why not?
He said his sprint is better. I'm not convinced it is. I think got lucky.
It doesn't need to be.
Yeah, true. I don't know.
With getting stage wins, getting close positions, you never know.
I think the GC guys, Ayuso, Almeida, Gita, Kelderman, Roglic, Evenepoel, I think they're all going to cannibalize from each other, and I think Ackermann or Groves will take it in the end. Or Hayter. Hayter really should be winning the points jersey. What am I talking about? Yeah, Hayter. Hayter wins. Hayter wins points. What am I talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, does his team have enough support for it? Or is this the same Wout van Aert discussion?
The punchy finishes, he'll be there where the other guys were. I don't think it matters. Yeah. I mean, no. Will he contest a bunch of sprints?
He should.
He has to. Like, it's not the Tour de France ones. He has to go for them, even for points. Just 5th and 6th. Just fill in. Just follow the wheels. Okay, that's points. Young rider, I'm going for Evenepoel, which will become pretty obvious in a second. A lot of guys are eligible for it that are very talented. Rodriguez, Rodriguez already said, Plapp, Almeida, maybe, Ayuso, and Evenepoel, of course, but I'm going with Evenepoel because you'll see why in a second. Who you got?
For me, it's difficult because I went like for 3 years and a half or something, I've been shouting Carlos Rodriguez off the rooftops of every single building in Belgium. And obviously it was going towards, I think I tweeted last year somewhere, he's going to podium the Vuelta in 2023. This year I became too cocky and I said he's going to do it in 2022 now, which seems difficult looking at the parkour because the parkour does not shout Carlos Rodriguez to me. But I see Evenepoel as better for this parkour, so for white I have to lean towards Remco as well.
And Almeida surely will be better than... Well, the problem for Rodriguez is he might get folded into a domestique role. Like
Almeida for Ayuso.
I don't
Portuguese people with pitchforks.
I'm not sure about that. Because, if, say Almeida's in 6th, Rodriguez is in 8th, but like Carapaz is fighting for podium, it's going to be like Bernal had to sacrifice for Yates last year, whereas I don't think Almeida will. So that's why it'd be tough for Rodriguez, unless he's really up there on GC2, which is the final big one, extremely hard to predict. If you could tell me with 100% certainty that 2021 Vuelta Roglic shape was coming to this Grand Tour, I think he'd find a way to get it done ahead of Evenepoel. I think Quickstep a little bit inexperienced. Jumbo, okay, their climbing squad's not great. They got good rouleurs, but Roglic has won 3 Vueltas for a reason. It'll be hot in August. He loves the heat. The parkour suits him too.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just not sure. Like the Tour de France, I swear it finished just yesterday, and I'm just not sure about his condition. And for that reason, I'm going with Almeida 3rd. It might run it pretty close. Almeida 3rd, Roglic 2nd, Evenepoel 1st is my podium with no Ineos riders. I think there'll be 3 Ineos riders in the top 10.
Oh. Having no Ineos rider in the top 3 hurts. I think looking at how many riders they've got in their squad set up to be GC riders, and therefore my podium starts with, I have to do it. I have to double down because if I don't believe in Carlos Rodriguez podiuming, then there's 2 options. I could either tell you, honestly, okay, I don't believe that Rodriguez will top 3 this Vuelta, but no, we don't do that here. We do not do that here. That's not okay. What we do is we double down on the prediction that is likely to be incorrect, and we say Carlos Rodriguez is going to podium this Grand Tour, is going to get 3rd, he's going to beat everybody else except for Roglic in 2nd. Roglic in 2nd. And if you asked me before this in-depth preview who I was going to have win this Vuelta, I was never going to be Remco Evenepoel, because I was always like, I think he's going to get like a top 6 or something and win 2-3 stages perhaps. But let's be honest, the more you go through this parkour, the more you see that the gradients are perfect, the climbs are perfect, except for Sierra Nevada perhaps, except that Prades steep climb, for example. Like you said, it's It's more that I don't trust Quickstep, but if Quickstep does their job well in prepping Remco for this stage, then Remco should be able to do pretty well in this Grand Tour, and I think Remco wins this Vuelta.
I mean, you've changed quickly, Benji. A week ago, we did the can Remco win the Vuelta question, and you looked at me like I had two heads. You looked at me like I was insane.
Does.
Pardon?
That's what research does.
Yeah.
As in, I looked at the parkour a few more times this week, and I was like, okay, let me change my predictions.
Okay, so both got Remco winning La Vuelta, but I can't wait to see the battle. And Bora as well. Hindley, Igita, Kelderman, they'll probably try something as well, but the parkour doesn't really suit Hindley too much. So that's probably, no, he's not the favourite, but he is the second favourite, Remco. But I can't wait to see. I hope Roglic is in good enough shape to make it a really, really big battle. Look out for GC Coos too. Thanks to Zwift for supporting the show. Make sure you check out Zwift Academy. Even if you're not trying to get a pro contract, it's a great sort of boost to get into some structured training. And let us know who you think will win the Vuelta. What's your podium? What's your jersey picks? We're interested to see what people think. And we'll see you with the European Championships TT wrap up and some Bernal Dumoulin news tomorrow. Ciao.